The Common Legend is a podcast for everyone.
Hello and welcome to The Common Legend, where legends are more common than you may think. My name is Sean, and this one is Nickel, and our legend this week is David Ramsden. David is a social media influencer and passionate animal rights activist who has been vegan for over 15 years and vegetarian for pretty much his entire life. And he's using his platforms to help raise awareness and inform people about farming practices to hopefully educate them and change their mind a little bit when it comes to the products they consume. We get to learn how David took a tax rebate to go to Mount Everest Base Camp, which led to a 10-day silent retreat where he had this aha moment and knew that he had to leave the corporate world behind and pursue a life worth living, a fulfilling life helping animals. I really enjoyed this conversation with David, and honestly, I could have kept going for hours. We run a little bit over in this episode, but I could have kept going for hours. This guy is so educated, and he's so passionate about what he does, and it's really just truly inspiring. Actually, it's inspired a little project in the works, a little secret project. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation with David, and I hope you do too. And if you feel inspired to help contribute to David's cause, I'll throw all of his information down in the description so you can figure out how to connect and support his cause. And I think you might know how an animal rights activist would answer the question, would you kick a puppy to save 100 strangers' lives? But David's answer might surprise you. So enjoy my interview with David Ramsden. I'm really excited for this one because I'm a huge animal lover myself. How are we doing today, David?
Great, thanks. I appreciate that smooth intro. You have got a voice for podcasting, man. Just switched it on there. That was impressive.
Thank you very much. I've had a lot of practice. So how's your day going?
Yeah, great, man. Great, yeah. Just working hard over here in Croatia. Well, my day, it's the end of my day. I'm at the end. You're at the beginning of your day, right?
Yeah, right there in the middle, kind of. Yeah, just in the afternoon. Yep, we're Croatia. Like, were you born and raised in Croatia? You spent your whole life there?
No, not at all. Born and raised in the UK, but I've been, I suppose you could say, nomadic since around 2015. Left the UK in 2015 and recently settled here. Been here for around half a year now. Hoping to stay here a lot longer. We like it here.
Yeah? You say you have a partner?
My wife and I, yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. So you were a nomad living out of a van or something, just driving around?
Oh, yeah, not quite. So it kind of all began back in 2015. Moved out of Manchester to go and get a job in Barcelona. I decided I really liked Barcelona. I wanted to go live there. I was there for a couple of years until 2018. Then I don't know if you guys have this in America, I got a tax rebate. So the government owed me money and I got a check for, not a small amount. Well, wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough to go on a trip. So I immediately booked a trip to go and do Everest Base Camp. And yes, this is all relevant to the story. You'll see why.
Okay.
So after I went to Everest Base Camp and back and did all that, that was incredible, by the way. The Himalayas are incredible. I went to do a 10-day silent retreat Vipassana course. So you sit in silence, you meditate 9 hours a day. As somebody, you'll know this as a podcaster, as somebody who never shuts the hell up, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But I sat there 9 hours a day for 10 days, complete silence, and got through it. And during that time, I realized that I don't want to go back to the grind. I want to do something meaningful with my life. I don't want to just go back and work in an office, which is what I was doing at the time. Even though it was a great job, by the way, no shade on them. It was an awesome job. And I decided I wanted to commit myself fully to working to try and make the world a better place for animals, to try and encourage people to make better choices, to try and just leave the world better than when I came into it in terms of how it is for animals. And then so that came with this kind of nomadic lifestyle. It requires, or back then it required some traveling. I wanted to give workshops. I wanted to go around the world and try and help people learn how to communicate. And that meant going to different cities and different countries. And so it kind of just came with the territory. But after all these years of kind of living that life, it's starting to get a little, I'm looking to more settle down and focus on some projects where I don't need to do that anymore, because it has been many years of going around investigating farms, investigating slaughterhouses, giving workshops, meeting people, just trying to influence and do all this work and all around the world, literally all around the world. And it's been an incredible journey, but definitely nice to stay in one place for a little longer, I got to admit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It does get nice to put some roots down.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's amazing that you were able to like have that opportunity. I mean, you made it for yourself, but that little financial kickback from the government, like, it's a blessing right there that you got that set you off. And I understand the want now to kind of settle down, though.
Yeah. It is funny how things can work. Like a lot of people would just, it wasn't a massive amount of money. It was like something like $2,000. A lot of people would just spend that on, I don't know, a TV and a PlayStation 5, and that'd be the end of it. So it just happened to be that I spent it on an experience, and it happened to be that experience made me just completely change my life. It's a very, yeah, you're right. I made it for myself, but it's also kind of, there's a stroke of luck in there, I'm sure. Very fortunate to have had that happen. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, so what was it directly that inspired you to do that? Like the silent retreat. That's very like Buddhist, right?
It is Buddhist, yeah. It was, well, I mean, going to do Everest Base Camp was a big challenge in itself. So I'd actually, it's pretty crazy. Around the time, 2 weeks before base camp, I ran my first ever marathon. This was all tied in together. And so I was running the marathon and I was doing base camp as a kind of, to show people, hey, look, I'm born and raised vegetarian, been vegan for, at that point, maybe 10 years. I can't remember, something like 10 or 11 years. I'm running a marathon. I'm going to do base camp. And then I did both of them, and it was all on social media, all like, hey, look, see, vegans can do this stuff. Don't believe all the nonsense you hear about, being protein deficient and whatnot. That was kind of the point of it. And then the next challenge, physical challenge was done. I could do both of those. And I heard about this retreat, and I thought, well, I mean, if I can do all that physical stuff, surely I can do the mental stuff. And people were telling me, no way. They're like, you were never in a million years going to handle that. You cannot do that. That's what got me in there. But once I was in there, it was no longer about the challenge. It was about oh God, how do I just get through this? This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It is not fun. I'm no longer pumped for the challenge. I am just dying. This is the most horrible experience. But then, towards the end of it, it was like complete ecstasy, to have done it. And it's such a valuable lesson. I need to do it again. I think everyone in the world should have to do that at least once. Just 10 days of silence, cut off from the world, no phones, nothing. No, you can't even draw. You're not allowed to draw. You're not allowed to write, nothing. You just have to just be there for 10 days eating,
nothing,
sleeping, meditating. That's it.
It's a camping retreat in your head.
Literally, yeah, literally. And you're not supposed to tell people what happens, but I can tell you everyone has a different experience, but it's also some similarities in it, and it's brutal. Not the physical element, the psychological element is brutal. The things that end up happening to you in that, but that's how I got into it. Yeah, so not at all a spiritual thing. I'm not a particularly spiritual guy. I'm still not really, but that definitely got me closer to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you grow up with any kind of religion or spirituality?
No. My mum raised me with just kind of, you will figure it out yourself. She has her beliefs, and you can go and figure it out yourself. I leaned way towards atheism as a youngster because I had a very bad experience with a religious studies teacher who was trying to teach us about God. And when I asked him 2 questions, which were basically, is there ever been any kind of proof of it? Which was innocent. I wasn't being he snapped and scolded me, and that made me immediately just reject all religion at that moment. I was done. But in later life, especially the last couple of years, I have become a lot more sympathetic to Christianity, and especially the teachings of Jesus, especially that. I've been really inspired by that, and especially recently with this new film called Christspiracy. I don't know, have you heard of that at all?
No, I haven't.
You should watch it. It's free to watch. It's Christspiracy.com. And it's now a friend of mine, but not before I watched this. I got in touch with him after this and we became friends. But he'd been working on that film for like 7 years. He's a passionate Christian, devout Christian. And he just investigated the hell out of Jesus' story and just turned over every stone he possibly could, and found some stuff that had been hidden for 2,000 years and hidden on purpose. I don't want to give away the spoilers of this, but it makes Jesus even more of an incredible person than we know, basically, the stuff that was hidden. So it's pretty cool.
Christspiracy. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm definitely watching that today. Like you got
you a Christian yourself?
I'm a man of faith. I am nothing. I am who I am,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, you'll enjoy that. You'll enjoy that film, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just a curious creature. I'm sure, as you are. So, did all your friends think that you couldn't do that retreat because you're just such a chatty guy, or they're like, you can never shut the fuck up? Like,
I think I think it seems that way for sure. I think that's how people view me, but they also massively underestimate how stubborn I am. I think that's been a thing that's pushed me through a lot of
never
tough times.
underestimate a stubborn man.
Absolutely. So I think, yeah, they, I can be stubborn in that I won't shut up, but I can also be stubborn in that I will shut up. If shutting up means winning, I'll shut up. You know what I mean? And it's kind of immature, and I'm working on that, trying to be less immature. But in this case, it worked out because I was, I had an incredible experience off the back of it. But yeah, very chatty, very talkative. Find it really hard to bite my tongue, to be honest with you. But I've got a lot to say, a lot of opinions. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Biting your tongue is a skill, man. It's one I'm trying to teach myself too. Interviewing people helps because you're like, okay, I have to shut the fuck up.
Oh, for sure. I interview people and that, oh my God, you should watch some of my earlier interviews. I was talking more than them. Yeah. And that I had to really learn this, that it's supposed to be 80-20, right? 80% them, 20% you. And if your questions don't make them talk for 80% of the time, you're not asking good enough questions.
Absolutely.
So, that's simple, actually. Yeah.
Yep. That's something I'm learning right now. So I'm glad you've experienced that. I'm not alone. I'm like, shit, I'm trying to do something I'm not meant to do, or what? What's happening?
You'll get used to it. And you know what else will happen? You'll get used to it. And also you'll start to enjoy listening to other people talk, which is, I know it sounds crazy for someone who loves to, talk a lot. It was for me. I used to find it really hard. I would be eager to say something, I'd have to fight the urge, but now I think it's a youth thing as well. I think,
oh yeah, totally.
I'm like 35 now and I think I'm just chilling out a bit more.
Yeah. We're calming down. We're getting too tired.
Yeah. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 36. So yeah, we're pretty much the same age.
Yeah, exactly. Same boat. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard because like with my ADHD, I like to relate to people. So when they say something, I'm like, I want to chime in and be like, oh, so I can relate to that,
I'm exactly the same. I'm undiagnosed, but I'm almost certain. And most people who have been diagnosed are like, dude, you need to go and get diagnosed. It's like, you'll understand a lot more about yourself. Yeah. But, I mean, that's probably part of the stubbornness. Like I've done things like on my YouTube channel. So, for example, one of my friends who is diagnosed, he asked me like about a stream that I did. I did a 24-hour stream, and I used to regularly do 12-hour streams. And he asked me, he suddenly realized one day, like, wait a minute, you don't drink coffee, do you? I said, no, I don't do caffeine at all. He's like, you don't do anything to stay awake when you're doing those streams? I said, no. And he was like, dude, you got ADHD. 100%. There's no way you do 24 hours on stream without caffeine or any stimulant. Like you have it. And so yeah, I probably need to look into that.
I mean, yeah. Do you though? Like, if you can understand yourself enough without a diagnosis, I don't think you necessarily need it.
True. That's also what my wife says as well. Yeah, she'd agree with you on that. Diagnosis isn't necessary.
Yeah, some diagnoses can like really change your perspective and your mindset and your beliefs, and like change your course in life too.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I guess it would be. I feel like it's good to know, because then at least if you do have that, then at least it's like you shouldn't use it as a crutch, but at least you have a definitive answer in that why sometimes you feel frustrated or why sometimes you feel unmotivated and something seems really hard when it's really simple. It'd be nice to have like a definitive answer to that, and that you're not just crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
But apart from that, I agree with you. Yeah. If you can manage, you probably don't need to like go and get the, some professional thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, knowledge is power though. So can't hurt, I guess, sometimes.
For sure.
Depends on how smart you are.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So after you did your Everest then base camp and your meditation, this is when you were like, I can't go back to that 9-to-5 grind.
Yes. Yeah. It was kind of it was a really nice moment actually when I realized that this is what I was going to do. And I had enough time to think about it, obviously. At 9 hours a day of meditation to think about this, I really got to the bottom of it. And yeah, I mean, the grind was fine. I worked as a HR manager and I had my own team, and I could come and go whenever I wanted to. I made my own hours as long as I did whatever it is, 39 a week, 40 a week. I could have them whenever I wanted to. I could work until 10 o'clock at night if I wanted to. That was the nature of it, because it was a center where people would work until like 5 a.m. because of time zones and stuff like that. So, it was a cool job, but it was just lying in the pockets of somebody else. And I don't mind that as long as I'm obviously making money as well. But if I can not make money, but if I can survive, or I can at least kind of pay my bills, and while doing something that actually changes the world, and for me specifically for animals, because that's where my passion lies, and that's where I believe most of I am most needed for animals. There's no doubt in my mind for that. They have the least charitable donations. They have the least activists around the world, the least advocates. The advocacy movement for animals is the least funded, especially for farmed animals. Pet animals get a lot of support, actually, still not as much as humans, but a lot of support. Farmed animals, it's pathetic. The number, it's something like 0.001% of worldwide donations go to helping farmed animals. And so once kind of all this kind of clicked, and well, I mean, every minute that I spend in an office job when I could be doing this is, it's painful. Like if I can make it work. And so I'd set out a plan in my head, and I thought, well, I'm just going to try. I'll try and build a reputation. I'll try and build a reputation of giving value to people, value to other vegans, helping vegans to learn. And that's how I'll start to kind of build that up. And then hopefully I'll get something back from the community that I'll be able to, not not be on the street, right?
Yeah.
And it ended up working out. Actually, people really valued what I was doing, and I was able to continue doing that based on community support. And then YouTube was helping as well, with obviously getting all of the YouTube going and built up. And yeah, as I'm sure YouTube doesn't necessarily pay a lot, but when you get all these little bits together, you can make it. If you're committed, if you're passionate, if you believe in something, you can make it work. And that was it for me. That's what I decided to do. And so far, I've not had to go back to the grind. Not doing well necessarily. It's not like you can't get rich off of this, obviously, and that's not the plan anyway. But been able to make it work. And so I'm really, really thankful to everybody who's continuing to help me do this. Because for everybody who still is in the grind and they can't get out of it, maybe they have kids, maybe they have responsibilities, the way that they do their work for the work change in the world is to help people like me who can do this full time. So it all works, it's like a big network of people all doing their part basically to try and change the world. Yeah.
Everyone's plays a role. Yeah. Not everybody has the passion you have, or the drive, or is willing to take such a risk, but they are willing to contribute financially a little bit,
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe they are willing to take the risk, but they just can't take the risk. This is the thing. If you have kids, there's no way. It's not fair to put them through, maybe that's what they think. It's not fair. Some people do, by the way. Some people have kids and they go, I'm going to try it anyway. I mean, but I don't know if that's such a smart move. Actually, it probably is better for you and the family and the kids, and even maybe the animals, if you build kind of that family structure and keep your income going so that you can support with that income, right? Rather than trying to make it work as full-time advocates when you've got really, really important responsibilities that are going to take up a lot of your time, But yeah, I mean, and also there's physical limitations people have. People have disabilities. People have all sorts of things that limit them, and so those people, like I said, the way they can contribute is, like you said, financially, and by sharing, not just financially, sharing, liking, commenting, watching the videos, sharing the video, all that stuff is so important. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. People don't realize how much just interacting or a little acknowledgement, like a thumbs up, a heart, can do.
Oh, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. When people ask me what do I need, I'll tell them, well, first of all, obviously, funding is always needed for the work that I'm doing. Of course, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that it isn't. And even that's controversial sometimes. People don't like talking about money. I understand that, but it's an uncomfortable conversation we need to have. But aside from that, just engaging is so important. Watching a video from minute 0 to the final minute. Don't jump out when the video seems like it's ending. If you want this video to succeed, if you really believe in it, watch it all the way through. Watch it again, even. Leave it on repeat all day. Yep. These are things you can do. These are really powerful moves you can make. It costs you nothing.
Yeah, amen. I try to tell that to people all the time. I'm like, don't send me gifts, don't send me this, send me that. Just keep engaging, keep the algorithm pumping, keep putting more eyes, share it with a friend. Even if you share it with just one friend, maybe that friend will share it with 100,
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's how these systems work, right? Yeah. The more eyes on it, more engagements with it, then likely get out to more people. And that's the nature of it. That's why the most spiciest, dramatic things do really, really well, which is also kind of unfortunate because
It's super unfortunate.
yeah.
Yeah, because you don't. I hate that. That's how human psychology works. Like we have to sometimes focus on the negative or the bad, or we have to say stuff that'll trigger people.
Yeah, it's a real shame for those in my world as well with this because the second I want to talk to somebody, I do some street work. I'll talk to people in the street, and they'll ask, "Oh, so you're a vegan then?" I say, "Yeah, I'm a vegan then," and they'll say, "Oh, you guys, you're always like shouting at people, and you're always telling people they're this and that, and calling people names and this kind of stuff." And I'll have to say, like, man, how many people have you seen do that? And it's usually one or two, maybe three people. Where did you see them do it? Online.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's this kind of catch-22. It's if you don't go around kind of being really confrontational, agitating and aggressive and loud, then your video is less likely to pop off, right? And get loads of views and get out there. But then it's also it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it comes back on you, because then actually that becomes the reason that people don't want to engage with vegans. So you did really well at getting this out there, and you got the message out there, which is great. And some people will say, "Hey, do you know what? That vegan, even though they were angry, that they made sense." But then a lot of people will say, "I don't care what they have to say. I now have a negative impression of vegans. I don't want to talk to them." And I have to explain to them. And when I explain usually why I'm a vegan and why people are vegan, they're like, "Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I just thought you were just kind of angry. I just thought you wanted to force your views on me. I just thought you were, some kind of moron." And it's like, unfortunately, yeah, these more dramatic kind of videos and stuff can push people down that road. But like I said, it's a catch-22. If you don't do it, then you don't get out there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like you said, people can develop that stigma, that biases from a single video they see online. They no longer have to see it in real life. You can form all these core beliefs from stuff that's just pushed in front of you by the algorithm.
Exactly, yeah. No, for sure. And rage bait is a real thing too. People will see some kind of person getting, really angry about something. It doesn't even need to be veganism, can be anything, or a fight. If they engage with that, then they'll just get served a load more of it. So if you watch one street fight, it happens to me. I constantly have to block these on Twitter, especially these street fights, because maybe I'll just get caught up 1 minute and say, what is that going on there? That's a weird looking. Look at the way they're fighting is really weird. And then it thinks, oh, he likes watching people beat the crap out of each other on the street. I'm like, no, I don't want to see that. Like UFC,
No, you just caught me.
yeah, UFC or boxing or something, sure, but I don't want to see people like trying to kill each other in the street. Like, who wants to watch that? Who enjoys that? It's not nice, man. It's the worst of us, actually. But yeah, it just serves it up to you, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And they use psychologists and stuff to develop these algorithms. So people don't understand that they're literally exploiting our own brains.
Right. No, yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. They're all designed to do that. Yeah.
So what I've been doing personally is to fight against that. Like you said, block the accounts where you're like, why am I getting served this? Block those things right away so the algorithm knows. My home screen on my phone, I made it all black and white. So now colors can no longer draw my attention,
Nice.
Disable all notifications other than messaging if you want to talk to people. So learn how to fight back.
Yeah, man. They call it dumbifying your phone, basically. I think that's what like a dumb phone. I've got some stuff on there, but I tried doing what you've done, but I ended up disabling it all because it annoyed me. But you're right. You're inspiring me.
No, you just have to push past that annoyance. It's annoying for like the first 2 weeks, but then eventually it's amazing, because if you want to go to an app, you have to intentionally be like, I want to. It doesn't be like, hey, come here.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I saw a comparison, someone saying that your phone home screen is like a casino, basically the way it's set up. It's like all these flashy colors and stuff. But if you just make it all black and white, then it takes a lot of that out of the way. I need to do that. You're right. I agree.
It's just a simple step. Just try black and white for a couple weeks, do everything else later, but I highly recommend it.
I'll give it a
go. So you said you were raised vegetarian?
Yeah.
Okay. So your parents were vegetarian?
Yes, my mum was a vegetarian from the age of 16 because when she was 16 years old, she was on a school trip or something like that, and she saw one of those transport vehicles, and it was carrying loads of lambs, baby sheep, and obviously they were going to be killed because people eat lamb. A lot of people don't. This is a weird thing, right? A lot of people don't make the connection that lamb meat is a baby. not a human baby, obviously, but a baby animal, like a baby sheep.
I thought that was
It's-
veal.
Veal is baby cow. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So lamb is baby sheep. And
Oh,
I've,
right. Okay.
I've,
Yeah,
I've said
I
this,
didn't make that. Yeah. Go
right.
on.
And I've said this to people and they're like, no. And you like, yes, like Google what a lamb looks like. And their little babies are these cute little fuzzy, fluffy little babies. And it blows people's minds. And that just, you know, you talk about psychological kind of warfare with the social media. There's also psychological warfare with the meat, dairy, and egg industries. And this is part of it, that people don't even consciously consider that they'll go and look at a picture of a lamb in an animal rescue or somebody rescuing a lamb from being hurt or something. Oh my God, look at them. They're like little fluffy teddy bear type thing. They're so cute. Holy shit, they're so cute. And then they'll just go and eat lamb and they'll have no connection to it whatsoever. And that's part of, psychological warfare.
Totally.
And so my mum went vegetarian off the back of seeing that when she was 16 and raised me and my two brothers vegetarian. And then my youngest brother is a vegan and I've been a vegan for about 15 years now. Yeah, raised vegetarian. I'm 6'2" and about 90 kilos currently, which is in American. Just for people wondering, because I know
American.
because people always ask these things about me. It's about 198 pounds and 6'2".
So you're a big fella.
Yeah, my brother's also big. He's about 6'1", and he's about the same weight as me. And he's still a veggie, but not a vegan, and I'm a vegan now. And so that kind of idea that we need meat, I mean, for protein or whatever, it's blown out of the water. If me and my brother are 6'2", if we were needing it, then obviously we wouldn't have grown. And neither of our parents is tall, by the way, which is really weird. They're both relatively short, so it's
You're
not
both the
genetic.
postman's kid.
Who knows? Who knows?
So
Yeah.
you're using this to say that like you're still just a big strapping man and like you feel fine nutritionally for, you said 15 years?
Well, yeah, I mean, back when I did the marathon and did Everest Base Camp, I mean, I'd been vegan then for 10 or 11 years. You know, those things, if there's something wrong with me, it's going to start showing when I start pushing my body to its limits. And I did the marathon in 3 hours and 30 minutes, which is, for the first marathon, is pretty good. I mean, I was completely dead the day after, but that's the normal after a marathon.
Yeah.
My legs were done. And actually a lot of people also, they like to say, well, you know, you're a big guy now, but you built your size when you were vegetarian, right? Obviously. And that's not true either. I only got to this size now, like 198 pounds after about the last 2 or 3 years of working at it, you know, eating properly, eating big, eating lots of protein, training. Before that, I was, one second, I'll just Americanize this. I was 154 pounds about 2-3 years ago at 6'2", which is quite lean, right? It's runner's body. But I put on those like 45 pounds as a vegan, right? So this is, you know, it's a personal story, but it's just to show that, to kind of I'm trying to undo that idea that, oh, vegans can't build muscle or vegans are always skinny. It's like, yeah, I was skinny my whole life, but then I chose not to be, and there you go. Still can do it as a vegan.
Yeah. So I'm guessing then the choice for you to jump from vegan or vegetarianism to veganism was because you just took that core belief your mom kind of shared with you and took it to the next level because you don't want to even support the dairy industry and
Yeah. So I was laughing because at first my mum was vegan before me, and she was trying to give me the education. She was telling me about, look at the cows in the dairy industry. She was saying you don't eat meat because you're against killing cows. The dairy industry also kills cows. The dairy industry is the meat industry. She was trying to tell me, but you know, I've spoken to probably thousands of people at this point. I know how stubborn people can be, and I was one of them. I was very stubborn, didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to change my ways. So I know how it is, you know, when you hear things you don't like. But yeah, she told me about that, about how, you know, the dairy industry, first of all, they are also killing the cows. And what do you think happens to them? You know, and that was kind of a shocker for me to learn. It was also shocking for me to learn that they kill them after it's around 2 years. They're lucky to get 3 years of life in the dairy industry, but cows can live to like 25 years old. So they're killing them practically as, you know, very, very young. I wouldn't say babies, but they're very, very young that they kill them. And also, she told me about these other things they do with them, like they artificially inseminating them. I don't know if you've heard about this before. So to get them pregnant, they will have to get them pregnant, otherwise they don't produce milk. Again, something else that I didn't know, that a lot of people don't know. like humans, mammals. The women don't just walk around producing milk, right? They have to
Yeah.
be pregnant, be in the later stages of pregnancy, or have just had the baby, right? Same as a cow. And so they have to get them pregnant, and that involves a farmer literally injecting them with bull semen. And they got the bull semen by, I don't know how to put this in a way that's not going to get the podcast flagged, but they're basically jerking off bulls. They physically, this is not like an exaggeration. They jerk off bulls, and they get the semen, and they insert it with a needle into the cows. By the way, tie the cow up, and they will tie them up or put them in a metal contraption while they do this, because the cow's obviously freaking the hell out, because it also involves putting a hand up their ass as well, because they have to find the cervix and lift it to kind of imitate what a bull would be doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they have to, this is a horrible, horrible process. And, it was something that people said to me after I started to kind of find out about this, is that, what if that was in a human context, if that was being done to a woman, what would we call that?
Right.
Right.
Sexual assault, right? I mean,
exactly. Sexual assault is the descriptive term. There's a shorter,
yes.
word
yeah,
for
this
it.
fucking rape. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so then kind of that really hit me hard when I started thinking about these things. And we would say that. So why is it with a cow, it's just standard practice and legal? But if you were doing that, I don't know, if you did anything similar to that, never mind to a human, to a woman, if you did that to your dog at home, you'd get locked up. The dog would be taken away from you, be locked up. But if you do it in a farm to a cow, totally fine, because milk, right? So I learned about all this, and it just, okay, I don't want to support any of that at all. I don't want to support breeding animals into captivity and doing these horrible things to their bodies, violating them and then killing them. And obviously that includes eggs too. Including eggs, I suddenly realized it's not just about meat. It's not just about killing. It's about the, creating them, putting them in captivity, just abusing their bodies to get everything we can from them, and then killing them. Which is, the killing is it's not the whole thing. It shouldn't just be about the killing. It's, if, for example, if you had a dog and you were breeding dogs just to, take things from their bodies, I don't know, dog milk, right? And then a second they were too old, you said, oh, I can't afford to feed them, so kill them. You're not necessarily doing it to kill and sell them, but it doesn't matter, does it? You're still the outcome is the same, right?
Yeah.
You're still doing it. And so that kind of hit me. And then after I realized all of that, I said, oh no, this is, being a vegetarian is a good thing. Of course it's a good thing, but you got to go all the way here, and let's start to make all these other changes. I started making all the changes, and there's no way back. There's definitely no way I would ever go back now.
Dude, let me tell you, you're missing out, because dog cheese is the shit.
You should look up Elwood's dog meat. They're a USA.
No.
Oh no, they're
No,
a USA-based dog meat brand. Yeah, check them out. Elwood's dog meat. They don't worry about it. I know it seems shocking, but it's a totally humane farm. The dogs there have a great life. They're free range. They get to live outside most of their lives, and they give them names and stuff, and they're really nice. Like, they have really good relationships, and they really love their animals. But obviously they obviously kill them and eat them as well and sell them.
Do they wait for the natural end of their life, or
No, because then they're not good enough to sell. The same with cows and chickens and pigs, and if you let them live to their natural end of their natural life, they'll have a lot of, like we have, muscle deterioration. They won't be, there won't be as much profit from them, and you'll have spent your entire life feeding them, and then you won't be able to make enough money from the product meat, right? Because at the end of their life, there's not going to, it's a long 25 years is a long time for a cow. You're not going to get any profit back from that. It's the same with the dogs, right? You got to kill them at their prime so that you can get as much meat as possible from them.
So wait, was that sarcasm when you told me this isn't as bad as it sounds? Because that sounds terrible. I'm genuine. That's a genuine question. Okay,
so I'll give you. I'll split this down into. So what I said about the cows and the reason they will kill them in their prime that's not a joke, and that's not sarcasm. That's 100% true. That's why farmers kill them at such a young age, is because any older and they become unprofitable. And that's obviously horrible. I 100% agree with you. That is absolutely horrible. The stuff I said about the dogs, none of that's true. But the brand Elwood's Dog Meat is true. That is 100% real. And it's a website. They set it up to do exactly what I just did now, is to have people go, that's absolutely horrific, because it is, but all they're doing is changing the animal. So Elwood's dog meat, it could just be Elwood's pig meat, right? You switch the animal, and that is exactly how they treat pigs. That is exactly what they're doing to pigs. But they set this whole website up, and this whole you're right, it is sarcastic. This whole kind of sarcastic, it's like almost a social experiment. And they switch the animal out for dogs, and it's a real website, right? I'm not messing with you. It's a 100%
real company,
page.
really selling dog meat here in the USA.
No. They don't really sell it, but they are a real website. They are a real group. They are doing this as it's like a form of advocacy.
Thank God. I was about to get so mad. You sold me.
Well, this is it. This is the point of it. And I love that you said you would get so mad. I love that because it shows that you're a compassionate person. And what I really want is for people to get just as mad as when they're doing it to a pig, a chicken, a cow.
I get it now.
Because the dog is, dogs have their own
loves dogs or
likes and
cats,
dislikes, and everyone loves them. But in terms of, obviously, dogs are fluffy and whatnot, and they have all these different things that make them different to a pig, a chicken, or a cow. And we can talk about the differences all day, but we never talk about the similarities. And I don't just mean that, they wag their tails, which is true. Pigs do wag their tails, but that's not what I mean. I mean that the thing they have that's similar that really matters. A dog wants to live. A dog has preferences. They like stuff. They don't like stuff. Stuff makes them sad. Stuff makes them happy. They have their own little world going on in that little brain of theirs. They don't really understand everything like we do. And they're quite vulnerable. Like they're kind of like children that never grow up. You know what I mean? They never learn how to really speak or understand the world. And that is exactly the case for chickens. That is the same for cows. That is the same for pigs. But the things that we would say, well, protect dogs because they're like children in that way. They never really understand what's going on. So protect them. And we use that as an excuse to protect them. We say, people would kill for a dog because they're so innocent and vulnerable. They would, defend the dog. But then when it comes to all these other animals, that's actually that weakness, that vulnerability. We use that to kill them. You know what I mean? We use that as a reason to put them in a farm and to kill them and to do these things because they're so weak and vulnerable, like a dog.
Right.
So it just doesn't make sense. Why do we draw that distinction?
Why do we choose dogs and cats? And why do we pick and choose? Yeah.
When they have the things that we value, right? They all have what we value in others. So we protect babies and children. We would die for babies and children because they're vulnerable and innocent and defenseless. Same as a dog, same as a cat. And then it comes to a pig, a cow, and a chicken, and they're just as vulnerable, defenseless, and innocent. But we say, no, just don't worry about them. Just breed them into a factory farm, cut their heads off, and eat them instead of just eating something else. Right. It suddenly changes,
Yeah, and it's funny. I actually recently had an experience with this topic because the way that the farming industry kind of gets away with it, especially for children, is ham. It's not pig, it's ham. Cow, it's beef. And so with my son, who's 5 years old, I actually recently brought him a ham sandwich. I was like, "Here's your pig," and he was like, "Pig?" I was like, "That is pig." And I had to have this conversation with a 5-year-old, and I realized, wow, we really don't educate people from the very beginning about what they're doing or what they're consuming.
No, 100%. I'll tell you something that's going to blow your mind that I only found out after, it must have been 10 to 12 years into being a vegan. I didn't know this, which is insane considering I'm in this world and even I didn't know this. And so what the hell chance does anybody else have, right? Someone told me back then, they said, hey, most pigs in the West are killed using gas chambers, right? And I was like, you're mental. This is some crazy vegan stuff. I mean, I'm a vegan, but I can also acknowledge there's some crazy vegan stuff, right? So I thought, you know what? Okay, this is some crazy vegan stuff. There's no way that's true. There's got to be like a euphemism or over-exaggeration. Went and researched it. They're literally killing pigs in gas chambers. That is how most pigs are killed. The USA, it's how most pigs are killed across most of the West. And it's not a euphemism. It's not an exaggeration. They literally put pigs into gas chambers. They put depending on the size of the gas chamber, it can be 3 to I think 5, maybe 6 if it's a big one. And they have like a carousel thing. So they'll put them in these little cages, and the chamber is full of CO2 gas, concentrated CO2 gas, and it sinks to the bottom because that's what CO2 gas does. And this chamber. If these chambers of pigs, these cages of pigs, they just go round in a circle and slowly drop them into the CO2 and then come up, and the pigs are either dead or unconscious. And the first thing that people ask me when I've asked me when I said this is, okay, so they just go to sleep, right? It's just sleep gas, isn't it? it's not sleep gas, it's CO2 gas. So if you ever opened a bottle of Coca-Cola or something, have you ever done that thing when you were a kid where you squeeze it and the air gets up your nose? You ever done
Yeah.
that? You know how it burns and makes your eyes water and it's like, oh my God, that's CO2, okay? That's a little bit of it just from a bottle of Coke. Imagine that, but concentrated. And it's not just a little bit going up your nose, it's going in your eyes, your throat, it's in your mouth, it's everywhere. It's burning. It forms acid on contact, by the way, CO2 gas. And that's what happens to these pigs in this gas chamber. So they are screaming, thrashing, desperately trying to get away from whatever the hell it is. And at the same time, it's choking them. It asphyxiates them. So you have this feeling of that you can't breathe and the pain of the burning. And this is all happening in gas chambers, which is something that you would imagine we would have stopped doing a long time ago after obvious historical examples. And you, for those that don't believe me listening, or even yourself, you just go on YouTube after this and just put in pig gas chamber. You can find footage from the UK and footage from Australia. They have footage and audio and everything that you can see. This is how it all. Because that blew my mind when I first heard it, and I think a lot of people would be disgusted in that actually if they knew.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Food Inc.?
No, but I heard about it.
Yeah, I watched that one at a very young age, 18 at film school, and I recommend it. It kind of gives you an inside view of all of this stuff, but 20 years ago.
Right.
So
right.
it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, no, I'll check it out. I mean, I've seen, obviously, there's modern documentaries like Dominion is a very good documentary on YouTube, which I think it might be similar to Food Inc., but it focuses on farming and just showing everything, literally everything, start to finish, farms, and how they operate for all these different animals. It's a very, very good documentary. I've met a lot of people who can't get through more than 15 minutes of it, which is pretty wild. So if you appreciate a challenge, then I challenge anyone, you yourself included, listening to try and watch it from start to finish. I've seen it twice. When it first came out, I was going to screenings and I was giving some talks at screenings, and I had to watch it twice in full, and it's brutal. It's absolutely, but it's the reality. It's not a horror film.
Yeah,
it's just how it is. I think we should all know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. A little less brutal introduction. I'll see if I'll test myself and see if I can make it through that one. But Super Size Me 2. Have you seen that one?
No, haven't seen the Super Size Me film. No, I haven't seen that.
The first one, obviously, it's him eating McDonald's every day to see the health effects on him. The second one, which is lesser known, he actually goes on a mission to start a micro farm to raise chickens, to start a fast food restaurant, to go through the whole process to get a chicken sandwich in your plate. And he kind of emphasizes and shows in a little slightly less disturbing way, I'm imagining, than Dominion, the process. But even that movie, you're like, holy hell, just you see what they do to chickens, and just how many chickens die during the moving process, and like the conditions and the requirements for free range is literally 3 cubic yards of outside area that could be fenced for an hour a day. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the kids meal version of this movie, I'm guessing. So if someone's listening, I'd also recommend that.
No, I agree. And I'm glad you've mentioned something there about the people. We tend to focus on the slaughter, and that this is really harrowing, and it is horrible. How they kill chickens is particularly horrible. They dunk them in electrified water, and then they go through a throat slitting machine after that. And the idea is the water's supposed to knock them unconscious, and the throat slitting machine is an automatic. They just fly by it, and it's supposed to cut their throats. And so that alone is just horrific. It's treating these. I don't know if you've spent time around chickens, but they're not just little mindless machines. They're quite complicated animals, and all of the animals that we're farming are complicated emotional animals. They're not mindless, dumb little cells or something like that. They have brains, they have thoughts and feelings, and they have complex communications with each other. And so doing that to an animal like that is akin to doing it in terms of the brain and what's going on in the brain. It's like doing it to a baby. They don't really understand. They see things, they feel things, they have fear and pain, but they don't really get what's going on. So it's already brutal. But as if that wasn't enough, a lot of the time the water doesn't work. And then the throat slitting, they miss it sometimes. They turn, or they're able to just move away from it. So what's the next part of that step? Well, it's a scalding, boiling water to get their to clean them, basically, right? To get rid of whatever it is, germs and stuff like that. And I think also it also gets the feathers off the scalding boiling water. So they just go in fully conscious. And that's very common, especially in countries like the USA and like really developed countries where they're doing it super fast. But you're right, and what you said, back to what you said about a lot of chickens don't even make it out of the farms. That's 100% true, and that shocked me the first time I started to go into farms to see for myself and try to investigate what's going on. So many of them will die right there in the farm from disease and injury, and the kind of injuries they die from, it's just because they're too heavy most of the time. They can't stand up, so their legs just give up and they start to buckle, right? And then this is the worst of it. Well, that wouldn't kill them, would it? Just an injury in the leg. No, that's not what kills them. What kills them is they can't get to the water and food. So they just sit there trying to, you can see them trying to get to it. They can't reach it. And this is where it gets even more sinister. That's something I learned also not that long ago. Farmers will raise the water and food off the ground on purpose so that any chickens that are not going to make it won't be taking up the resources because it costs more money. If they leave the water and food on the floor, then a chicken that's not growing enough, fast enough, will still be able to eat and drink, but that's not useful for them. It's better for them if only the ones who are getting the right size eat and drink, and the ones who aren't getting the right size, it's better for them that they just die there in the farm. So they'll just let them starve to death in the farm.
And the reason, like you said, they'll get so heavy that their bones will break under them is because they're bred genetically specifically to be huge chickens that are not supposed to exist. And so their bodies literally cannot keep up with the growth. So that's another level of, that's like eugenics, you know? What if we did that to a human?
No, 100%. That's what they've done to them. It's the same they've done to the egg chickens as well, the egg-laying hens. In nature, chickens are only supposed to, this sounds weird to say, and I'm aware it sounds weird to say, but it's just good to make the connection here. Chickens are only supposed to have as many eggs as a human, right? So women, human females, produce eggs. They produce one a month. That's why they have a period. Chickens are only supposed to have that also. In nature, it can be 12 to 14. So around one a month, maybe, in a year, maybe 14 in a year. That is crazy when you realize the ones that have been selectively bred are laying 300 in a year or more. So, can you imagine? And when they're laying the eggs, it's using up the resources, the nutritional resources. It's also stressful for them. It's not a pleasant experience for a chicken to lay an egg. It's a stressful experience. It's you think about it.
Giving birth.
It's giving birth. Exactly. You said it. Now they're doing that 300 times plus a year. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to realize that the impact that has on their body, not just nutritionally, but stress-wise, gives them a significantly worse quality of life. And even rescued chickens, rescued egg-laying hens, have continued to have these crazy problems even after they're out of these places. They live in a sanctuary, right? And the sanctuary is trying to keep them alive and trying to give them all the medical care they need, because their bodies are just falling to pieces because they're not even supposed to live that long. They're not selectively bred for long life. They're selectively bred for as much production as possible in a short life. So the second they get a longer life and have the opportunity, their bodies are just complete mess. And they have to give them all these different procedures and medications. They have to put things like fake eggs in their nesting areas so that they trying to offset the instinct for them to keep laying. And it helps a little bit. They give them these injections too, which can stop them from laying eggs, but they're really expensive. It's just, it's a Frankenstein's horror show, honestly, what they've done to these animals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a two-parter question while we're just kind of on this topic.
Yeah.
So a very real boundary between some people and veganism is budget, because it is not cheap to find. I mean, unless you're eating just like fruits, vegetables, and grains, like bare basic stuff. Like if you want alternatives and good substitutes, it's a pretty penny to pay. And so what would you suggest for someone who might be facing like a financial burden but still wants to make that transition? And also on the same note, like, what do you think about the price of fucking eggs right now? What's your reaction to that current social thing?
I find it interesting, and I find we'll start with the price of eggs thing. I find that interesting because a lot of people have made eggs such a staple of their diet that the idea of them being too expensive is it's almost kind of world ending. I feel people are like, oh, this is the end, the world is falling apart because eggs are expensive. And I feel like that just shows how far the propaganda has gone, that it's people can't imagine living without eating eggs. And I'm not trying to make fun of people here. I'm saying it's an observation. I'm not dunking on anybody. It's an observation of how well the egg industry has done. And as much as I despise what they've done, I've got to give them props because they're very, very good at what they've done. And the meat industry is the same, and the milk industry is the same. They're very good at manipulating and getting their way, basically, and lobbying and all these things. And that's how I feel when I see people going crazy about eggs. And why are we not just saying, okay, eggs are now crazy expensive. Cool, I'll just eat something else. Why is it such a big deal? And it's because you just can't imagine it. Can't imagine breakfast without them. I eat them every day. And it's this thing. I mean, it's not a big deal. Just eat something else. Just eat oatmeal. Oatmeal is...
People don't like change, man. Oatmeal's great, though. And you can dress it up a million ways.
That's it. Absolutely. So that's my thoughts on that. So I'm not gloating or like, oh yeah, because I know they're going to come back. I mean, they're not going anywhere. It's just a temporary thing. It's nothing to be celebrating about, but it is an interesting time to be observing, society. As for your other question about price, when I was first vegan, I was going to this local health shop, and I was getting these vegan burgers and sausages, and they were about like $1.50 for a packet of 4 burgers, which is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, they were terrible. I would have to buy them, right? And I would have to douse them in ketchup and just the texture was okay, but there's just no taste to them. They weren't great. And so price to taste wasn't very good. I would have done anything to pay more to have something that was like a juicy, meaty vegan burger. And I think, honestly, my intuition tells me, I feel like that's the case for a lot of people out there too. I don't think cost is as much of a deal to people as taste is. I really don't. And we're not talking about somebody who is genuinely living paycheck to paycheck and struggling. I can talk about those in a moment. But I think most people, when they say it's too expensive, what they're saying is, I don't think it's cheap enough to make it worth it for me. It's not that they couldn't buy it. It's that they don't want to buy it. And out to that, I would say, listen, the products that are available right now, you just go and try some. Like, oh, you might say it's a bit expensive. Just go and try it because they are good. And what's $1 or $2 when you're avoiding all the things that I've just spoken about? What is $1 or $2 to avoid eating animals that have just as much of a value for their own lives as your dog at home has? It's not that big a deal. And the vegan cheeses now and the vegan burgers and all these kind of vegan meats, they can be really good. You spice them and cook them exactly the same way as you would do the meats and the animal versions. You can make them feel, look, taste, and smell very, very close now. So just go and throw a couple more dollars at it. And, the more dollars you put into it, by the way, the more companies are going to compete and the cheaper it gets. So, be a part of that change. As for the people who are genuinely living paycheck to paycheck, the cheapest way to live, if you have access to these products, that is to go and buy these types of things you mentioned earlier, nuts and seeds and grains, all different legumes and stuff like that. Yeah. Make a massive pot of veggie chili or vegan chili, and you can freeze that. You can have meals for the whole week, right? You can put it on potatoes. You can just have it with rice. You could put it in a wrap. Like vegan chili, for example, goes really far. And if you want to make it meaty, you don't want to just have beans or lentils or whatever. You want to make it meaty. One of the cheapest kind of mock meat type things you can buy is called soy crumbles. Is literally just dried soy. And it's so simple. It's these soy crumbles, right? You just pour them into a chili and it just becomes like a kind of mince meat.
That's what Taco Bell was using to cut their meat, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it's I know a lot of people might have an issue with soy, and that is again part of, by the way, the manipulation of the meat industry. There's no health risks for eating soy. Actually, all the data, all the science is the complete opposite, that soy is actually really good for health. And so don't worry about that. You're not going to grow boobs. I always find that really funny have you heard that? The rumor you're going to grow boobs from soy?
No, but it does increase estrogen levels, right? But not to the point where you're going to develop new organs.
It doesn't. It increases phytoestrogen. Phytoestrogen is completely different to estrogen. So with estrogen, for example, if it increased estrogen levels, then I make this joke a lot because it's like a really topical thing right now. But if it genuinely increased estrogen levels, then trans people wouldn't need to spend all this money on hormones. They just eat a ton of soy, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
And
a
then
whole
it'll be-
marketing campaign. They'd take advantage of it. They'd be like, so much cheaper than your doctor.
Exactly, right? Exactly. But it's phytoestrogen. And what phytoestrogen does, actually, it can be helpful for people who are at risk of developing breast cancer, for example. As far as I know, I'm not a doctor, but as far as I know, breast cancer is generally caused by it's caused by estrogen. It's because it's to do with like I think it's too much estrogen can contribute to it or something like that. And phytoestrogen actually binds to the same receptors that estrogen binds to, and so it can actually help to prevent that risk. It can lower that risk.
Oh.
So it actually doesn't have any of the other, I think, is it therapeutic is the word? I don't know. It doesn't express itself the same way actual estrogen does. So you're not going to become more feminine or whatever. You're not going to have, if you eat lots of soy, you're not going to be at higher risk of breast cancer. Whereas if you were taking lots of estrogen, that is a risk. So yeah, but that's one of the manipulations of the meat industry. They remove the phyto at the beginning of it, right? Because it's plant estrogen. It doesn't do the same to us as mammalian estrogen, right? But it's an easy what's the word I'm looking for? It's an easy swap, isn't it? Just don't tell them it's plant and tell them it's
weasel
estrogen.
words.
Right, and then watch everyone lose their minds, and even I got caught up in it a little bit too. I was worried about it. I avoided soy for a while, and that's as a vegan. This is what I'm saying, is how far they can get you, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, on the opposite end of that spectrum then, though, but some of the hormones they inject animals with, the stuff in there can have effects. There's like documented facts of that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I mean, look at milk. Like cow's milk.
Hormone.
Yeah. I mean, well, the cows are injected with hormones to make them produce more milk in a lot of farms. But even without that, I mean, the milk substance, I mean, just think about what it actually is. What is milk? What is its purpose? Why is it being produced? It's being produced to get a little baby calf and make them grow as fast as possible. And they go from being these tiny little dog-sized animals to as tall as you are. The cows are absolutely massive. And they do a big bulk of that growth off of the mother's milk. Think about what must be in the milk to make that animal grow so quickly. And what, we're going to drink that? But then we're worried about phytoestrogen in soy. There are growth hormones in milk to make a little baby cow grow. So if that's your concern, I mean, you want to be getting off the milk then and getting onto something, milk made from something else. Like there's loads of options like rice milk or oat milk or soy milk, whatever it is.
And they're great alternatives now.
Mm-hmm.
And the milk alternatives are definitely getting cheaper because those caught on real quick.
Yeah. That's one of the things that actually got really taken on really well by most of people. I think because there's a lot of people with lactose intolerance, so I think it was an easier sell, for that big change, and people just kind of accepted it. And also, I think a lot of people started feeling freaked out by the idea of drinking milk from a cow. I think a lot of people just kind of got that intuitively, like, wait a minute, this is kind of weird,
Kind of weird.
Dog
milk. That metaphor really drove it home.
Yeah, right. Dog milk or giraffe milk or.
So would you go back from veganism to vegetarianism, say, if you had your own micro farm and you were doing everything ethically, sustainably?
No, because there wouldn't be a way to do it ethically, because it will always involve me breeding an animal into captivity and taking things from them, and and basically they live a life of servitude, and that's never going to be ethical to force an animal into a life of servitude. Same as it's not for a human. Even obviously, if we did this to a human, there's a word for that too. I don't like saying the words because people get very defensive, but we know what it means to breed humans into a life of servitude, even if you're not going to kill them and treat them.
You're talking about slavery.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'll say it. I don't give a fuck, man.
I mean, for me, people always, vegans always do this, but I mean, they're valid comparisons. It's not equating it. It's not the same. But you can make comparisons. And if we did it to humans and said, hey, well, I treat them really well, though, and it's environmentally friendly, no one cares, right? You know what I mean? No one's going to say, hey, well, I mean, at least he's doing it in a good way, and that's good. I'm glad people have that moral line. But with animals, there's the only circumstance I could ever see somebody having a good case to do this to animals is if they would die otherwise. I mean, obviously, if that's the case, then so be it. But other than that, I mean, we can we can eat animal-free foods and we can be really happy, healthy. So why would we ever, even if it's one of the best ways of doing it ever, why would we do it full stop? You know?
Yeah. Well, now, okay, just entertain a hypothetical. Like,
Sure, yeah.
do you think this is like you're only able to like, let me see if I can formulate this right.
Go for it.
Like, so back in the days, like pre-civilization, like just, like civilization might just be starting, but we're hunter gatherers. Like back then, if you came across an egg, or a dead cow, you would eat it or consume it, I'm assuming,
Right.
to survive. But now that we're in such a developed economy, capitalistic structure, and we are able to not do that anymore, but we still do. Do you think that's like part of it? Like if you were transported back in time today and all of it's like same brain, same everything as right now, but boom, you have to be a hunter gatherer again. Would you stumble upon an egg or a dead animal and be like, nope, I'm vegan? Or would you eat it?
If for survival,
yeah. So like if you were just transported right now with your same mentality, exactly as you are back, and you had to hunt and gather, and you were faced with a situation where you like stumbled upon a chicken.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let me.
Or,
if it's okay, I know this isn't really a good way of doing it, but if it's okay, can I answer your question with a question?
100%.
The answer will have the same answer, I think.
Okay.
If you were in a plane crash, you remember those Spanish kids that were in that plane crash, and it was in the middle of it was in the mountains in the snow. Did you hear about this? There's a film made about it some year, 20, 30 years ago.
Vaguely. Yeah.
Really cool film, really good film, really intense. So if you were in that plane crash and it's frozen solid and you don't know what's and you don't know what's going to happen, it doesn't look like anyone can rescue you. We're talking like some years ago where they don't have the good systems to come get you and stuff like that back then, and no one knows where you are and they can't find you and everything. If one of your friends had died and you and your friends are going to starve to death unless you eat him, would you eat him?
Man, like I almost want to come back to this because my sign-off question touches on this is ethics. We're talking about ethics now, right?
Sure. Well, practical. It's practical as well. It's basically what would you do in this case where you had to do what you had to do? And I think when push comes to shove, a lot of us would do a lot of things that we would not normally do. And so you and I believe in human rights. We would never go out and murder somebody, right? But there are cases where we would both murder somebody. And it wouldn't be obviously just for cutting you up in the street or something like that in the road. It would be in a case where we come up with loads of examples where you would take away human rights of somebody else to further some kind of moral thing for yourself. For example, if that person was about to go and kill, 100 babies, and the only way you could stop him was to kill him, you would probably kill that guy. So we agree with human rights up until a point, but then we take them away. Well, there's no difference when it comes to animal rights and an animal's right to live and whether or not we would hurt an animal. I'd like to think that most people wouldn't hurt an animal, and that's great. But if a bear attacks you and you have a gun, you're going to have to shoot the bear. You're going to have to shoot them. Ideally, you wouldn't go for the kill, go and, try and disable the bear or maybe for a couple warning shots or whatever. I'd like to think that most people wouldn't just take a gun and just go and kill because they enjoy it. You know what I mean? But then we would take away, we wouldn't do that because we believe these animals, well, I don't want to hurt an animal just for my enjoyment. But we would hurt animals if we needed to. And that's kind of the point I'm making. Some people
do hurt animals just for enjoyment.
I know they do.
And it disgusts me.
It disgusts me as well. But thankfully, they're a minority. And I hope that stays like that. I hope most people stay where we are. I feel actually grateful that the majority of people I talk to have a really good hearts. They're good people. I've been through hard times where I've really started to, feel negative about the people around me because, when I've been to these farms and I've been in these slaughterhouses and you come back out into the world and it's depressing that people still do it. But I am grateful that actually it's more of a ignorance that the reason that people do it. It's not because people are like, oh, I love killing animals. I love seeing an animal die in a factory farm. It's not that. It's because it's more that, well, if I don't need to see it, I won't think about it. And a lot of people would say that's actually really bad. But in a way, I'm so grateful that that's the situation rather than they fully understand everything and they're happy.
And they're malicious.
Yeah, like, oh, I just love it that a chicken gets thrown in a scalding hot water tank. Like, people are not like that. And I think
for the most part,
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, absolutely. The majority.
There's exceptions to everything, obviously.
That's it. Yeah, you're totally right. But yeah, through my experience, most people are really empathetic to animals, and that's great. But I also, yeah, like the point of those making is I understand that there are situations and there are times where human rights and animal rights will be temporarily lifted. And those self-defense, for example, there's lots of cases, self-defense, survival, and they might not all be completely justified, let's say, but they're explainable and they're understandable, right? And the one that you asked me, like, oh, if I got transported back in time, would I do it? Well, probably, yeah. And I don't think anybody would disagree with me that that's explainable and understandable. The alternative is
Yeah.
starve to death, and I don't recommend anybody does that.
Well, I think you answered that very elegantly because I mean, I just was trying to put myself in the mind of someone who's just like, I guess, hates vegans, you know, they'd be like, well, what, if you were back in the day, would you even eat an egg to stay alive? Huh? And
Right,
because
right.
I feel like there are some vegans who would be like, no, not even then, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
respect that. I mean, look, if a vegan wants to go down that road, hey, look, that's your call, right?
Yeah.
I'm not throwing shade at you. I don't think you're like an idiot or something like that. I think it's a little misguided, and I think that it maybe doesn't give the best vibe. It doesn't convince people of your position very well. But if you genuinely believe that, if you genuinely would die of starvation before eating an animal product, I don't know. I mean, good for you. That's all I'll say. Good for you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Right.
I wouldn't. I'm very practical. I'm very real, and I don't expect anybody to starve to death. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that might be controversial,
Ooh, so controversial. Yeah.
but no, I'm not definitely not on that boat. And you know, there's hundreds of millions of people living today in cities and you know in really really nice good positions where they've got expendable income and they can make all these amazing choices. My message is really mostly for them, the ones who can absolutely start making these changes right away. You know, and the good thing is when those who can start making all these different changes, okay, I'm going to swap this, I'm going to swap this, I'm going to go animal free here, I'm going to try this thing, then it makes it easier for everybody else to do it, maybe who isn't so well off, right? Because the more demand that we put out there, that people living in cities and you know the more developed side of things and more comfort, the more they put money into it, the better things get, and the more
Yeah.
competition, the cheaper things get, and then everybody else can come into it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's where like the influencers really come in, you know, like the things they adopt and the principles and practices like trickle down through society. So like semi-glutides, you know, or the injection to lose fat. Like if that mindset or that concept instead was like something like a vegan product, it would, then all of a sudden America would be like, we all got to have this. So
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if kindness to animals had the stickiness that Ozempic has
Right.
in
Yeah. No.
society.
Yeah, it's that vanity though. I think is the difference, and it's like the empathy and compassion versus the ego and vanity,
That's it.
which drives
Yeah.
a lot of people, especially in America. Like Jesus Christ.
You know, on that note, though, I will say that you know there is also kind of a point to make in that vein of vanity and kind of self-centeredness, in that one of the reasons people go vegan. I mean, a lot of people like to say it's selfless, right? But I don't know if I buy that any decision is completely selfless. I think a lot of the reason that we make decisions, moral decisions, whether to help the homeless person or whether to eat a vegan product, it's because it makes us feel good. And if we didn't do it, we'd feel bad. And so I actually think that the selfish reason to be a vegan is a valid one too. If the reason that you're a vegan is because you hear what I've said today and you feel guilty about what's happening to the animals and you want to soothe that guilt by picking the vegan products, awesome. That I think that's how most people kind of get into this making better decisions, whether it be for animals or for humans. Like you see a guy in the street begging and he tells you a story about how he ended up there and you feel for him, you feel emotional. So you give him some money and you try and buy some food. It's the same thing. It's obviously it's some level of it is selfless. Of course, you're doing something great for somebody else, but also I think a lot of it is driven by our emotions. I don't think that's a bad thing. We should be in touch with our emotions. We should, if we feel bad about something, there's probably something to feel bad about. We should do something about it.
No, it's interesting that you bring this up because literally, I think a day or two ago, I was having a conversation with someone of the Christian faith, and this topic came up. I forget how, but I was like, no, helping people, if that makes you feel good, then like that's great. But they're like, yeah, but that's vain. That's boosting your ego. And I was like, well, yeah, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, if I held out a camera and I was like, hey, look at me helping, that is like negative ego. I'd say that's feeding your ego versus scratching it. Where like just helping and it makes you feel good, you're scratching your ego. You have to acknowledge your ego. It's not going to ever go away completely. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I like that you mentioned the flaunting it is clearly not good. I agree with you there. Yeah, I agree with you there. There's a fine line. I think documenting your work and trying to use that to inspire others is a very good thing. But simply just posting something because like, hey, look how awesome I am without any kind of real message of you should do this too, then it's just social media influencer nonsense, and I'm not too big on that.
That's just for clicks, like versus what you're doing was raising awareness, and pointing people at how they can help and giving them resources and stuff. So
right, exactly. Yeah.
So on that note, like it's been an amazing time talking to you. We're coming to the end of our hour. I could talk to you for another 3 hours easily, but I just wanted to wrap it up real quick. But if people wanted to help what you're doing and contribute to the cause, what's the best way to do that for you?
That's a great question. Yeah. Come and check me out on YouTube and Instagram and get involved in the comment section, DM me, like, and, share the videos, share the posts. That's a really, really easy way you can help get the word out and get my work out there. Of course, financial support is always welcome to make all this keep going. As everybody knows, life isn't free. It'd be incredible if it was, but unfortunately it isn't. And we gotta keep working as well, and there's a lot of things that cost money, and getting the message out there also costs money, so please consider that as well. And I'm assuming the people I'm talking to here are already some form of to support animal advocacy and making changes and things like that. But if also you're not making any changes in your life currently, if you live the standard American way or the standard Western way, whatever it is, standard wherever way, and you've never thought about this before, just do me a huge favor. And I'm not even going to stand here and say, hey, look, go vegan now. I'd love to do that. I'll stand here and kind of like preach it. But I'll ask this today. I'll ask just start the process of just getting into this and just thinking about it, just questioning the things that I've brought up here. Do this research. Go and check out Dominion on YouTube. Go and watch Christspiracy. That's my ask. That's all my ask is just open a few doors, open a few books, open some websites, get out there and start looking into it. And I think you'll, if you're a good person, you're trying to be a good person, you're going to find yourself on a very similar path to me, I'm sure of it. And I'd love to hear from you. So please email me and direct message me on Instagram or whatever, wherever you can find me. I'd love to hear your story if and how this goes for you. Yeah.
No, I love that. No, me too. I want email me and do the same thing. But I'm willing to bet anyone who's still listening to this conversation at this point has an open mind, has some sense of empathy and compassion. So hopefully you get your passion. Hold on a second. Hey! Hopefully your passion. Okay, we're about to get there. Hold on. Hopefully your passion helps to inspire some other people. Okay, well, spoiler alert. I'm going to wrap it up with the same question I wrap up every time. I don't know if you've had the pleasure of listening to an episode all the way through, but I'm actually genuinely curious to see how you answer this question because after asking it now hundreds of times, I don't know. And when you think you know, that's when I'm like, I've had the rug pulled out under me. So okay. I need a visual aid for this one. So hold on a second. All right. So David, would you kick a puppy as hard as you possibly could, knowing full well you're probably going to end that poor, cute, innocent little puppy's life to save 100 strangers' lives? And here's a visual aid if you needed it.
My goodness. Look at those guys. Tell me their names.
So this is Nickel and Dime. They're brothers. I'm fostering them for the Humane Society right now.
Dude, that's so awesome, man. Look at those guys.
They're so sweet.
Yeah. Legends.
So you kicking the puppy or not?
Yeah. So this is in a vacuum. These questions when they come up in a vacuum, like if just remove all the emotions from it, and would you harm one sentient individual to save 100 sentient individuals?
That's exactly the root.
Right. In that one, probably, yeah. I don't really think too much about it. In real practical life terms, I likely wouldn't do it in real life. Like when you make this a puppy and you make this 100 strangers, I likely wouldn't do it. Simply because I guess there's too many variables that I wouldn't be happy not knowing. What are these 100 people? Is it 100 murderers? Is it 100? You know, and so I couldn't commit to it without knowing that. For example, there's a whole discussion we need to get into, a philosophical kind of diving deep into it before I would tell you. Because of this uncertainty, I would say no.
That's a very intelligent way to answer that. Yeah, it is a huge philosophical discussion that would have to be had. But I'm sure at any point in that conversation, with given variables, people would either kick or not kick the puppy if you changed the right things.
Yeah, but I guess.
But in this vacuum, you're not kicking the puppy.
In the vacuum where you strip everything away and it's just lives and they're not humans or animals, or they're just lives, then I would in the vacuum I would do it in that sense. If it's just a pure root thing, probably, because there's no kind of, it's a vacuum and it's not real practical life, if you know what I mean. Right. But when you put it into a real world context, no, there's too many variables. I wouldn't do it.
Okay. Yeah. Fuck yeah. We got another one for Team Never Kick the Puppy. Let's go.
I mean, if anyone said yes when the puppies are right there, I can't. Oh God. That's brutal.
But yeah, I'm taking advantage of this while I have it, a little visual reference. It definitely changes people's brains. You can see it immediately when they see the puppies. It's unfair.
No, it is.
David,
totally.
this has been so fun, man. I can't wait to connect and talk about stuff further in the future, because there's definitely some things I want to discuss with you. But thank you so much for coming on the show. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. Oh, wait. Usually I get a snap a Polaroid to put you on the wall of legends that I have you sign back here. Okay. But I can't do that, obviously. So when I count down, if you could just strike a pose, whatever you want, and hold it for 2 seconds so I can get a nice screen grab of you.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, sure. Just, go when you're ready. I'll just kind of pose like this.
3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you, man.
The cowman